what's going on in the power and energy markets in the region. And I know that you've been doing a lot of work on the gas market, and I think both in north of our borders and in the rest of Africa, as well as in South Africa, there's quite a lot of exciting developments in the gas market, including gas to power. And wasn't sure if you could just share with us your insights and your experience and where you see that market going.
Thanks very much, Colin. I mean, I think I'm delighted to actually advise that, the bank has actually once again closed another phenomenal deal in the region. In fact, we're in the final throes of actually drawing down on a project, the gas-fired power project in Ghana. It's actually called the Bridge Power Project. The lead sponsor on that is actually Endeavour Energy, former Enron developers. And General Electric has got a small equity stake in that, but it's going to be fully gas-fired. It's, just over 200 megawatts as the first phase. But I think, if anything, that is really the precursor of what we are likely to see on the energy market. If I look at what we did not so long ago as Absa in Mozambique, we closed the Sasol CTRG deal, which was about 161 megawatts of gas-fired power generation. If you look at what's happening in Mozambique, Mozambique has the world's ninth largest gas reserves, 187 TCF. And to put that into perspective, for a typical liquefaction facility, for an LNG liquefaction plant, you probably need about 4 to 5 TCF of gas. Now, 187 TCF of gas is a heck of a lot of gas. Mozambique, the northern part of Mozambique, actually shares the southern part of overlaps with the southern part of Tanzania, which is the Ruvuma Basin. So it's the same basin of gas that is shared between the two countries, and then you have unitization issues, etc. What Mozambique has done remarkably well is that they've got their act together. They've already had one of the largest project financings in the region with the Coral LNG project that was sponsored by ENI and a host of others. That is actually closed. Construction is underway. There's 2 other LNG liquefaction plants that are planned in the region. The next one is actually being spearheaded by Anadarko, and it's rumored that there will be a third project and an expansion of the initial Coral LNG project that ENI started. And it's all really picking up on the large amount of gas that Mozambique actually has. Now, the spin-off effects for that can be huge, not just for the country, for Mozambique. I think Mozambique has had the worst behind it already with the civil war that they had with Frelimo and Renamo. But, I think South Africa is close enough. This really augurs well for us to actually access part of that gas, whether it's through pipelines or whether it is, through LNG itself being shipped, which would actually be an ideal sort of landing point for South Africa for the gas-fired power generation that we are actually envisaging as a country. I've seen, for example, in the Middle East, when Oman had just discovered gas, what it actually had done for that economy. From being the poor cousin of the Middle East, Oman was just catapulted into a different league. And I foresee that Mozambique will actually have, in time, fertilizer plants, urea plants, ethane propane crackers, gas pipelines, gas-fired power generation, and the like. Right. So I think if we get our act together, it could be really good, not just for Mozambique, but for the region as well. And lots of jobs. You're going to get disposable incomes up, and there's stability for the region. So it's really exciting times.
That sounds really good, Bhavtik. And then just touching on, you said that should have regional impact. What is your assessment of how will that impact on South Africa, which is a bit closer to home? Do you see spillover into our market? We know there's a planned gas to power program. How do you see that developing in the South African economy?
So, if we look back at, say, 15 years ago, the gas price was in the region of $15 per million BTU. And that's the unit that gas is actually measured in. And, with the advent of the shale gas revolution in the US, when George W. Bush actually said, we will smoke them out of the holes, he wasn't messing around. It's actually resulted in a number of, shale explorations, etc. in the US, to the point where you've actually had now an abundance of gas. The gas price at the moment, if you look at the Henry Hub Index, currently is sub $2.5 per million BTU, compared to $15, 15 years ago. So I think, just looking at that, the future of energy is certainly clean energy. And within that, I certainly include renewable energy, whether it is solar PV, whether it is, wind, biomass, etc. But I think certainly gas has a great role to play here. And if South Africa, we don't have a lot of indigenous gas. What we did have with, Suco, etc., Mosgas and Petro SA, is pretty much over, until Total starts producing its next gas field, which is at least 5, 6, 7 years away. But the easiest way for us to actually access gas is from our doorstep in Mozambique. And I think that could really augur well for us as a country where, because of the gas price, we can actually complement or move away from, 90 or 95% coal-fired generation to, clean energy, which includes renewables, which includes gas-fired generation, being used as mid-merit, as peaking plants, etc. And then with that, all the spin-off effects that come from gas. I think it is really exciting times for us in the next several years here in the region.